So today we are starting this sermon series talking about the cross. In preparation for Easter, we will consider the message and the implications of the cross. The cross is a symbol, the most important symbol we have as Christians. In our world, we have many symbols. We have brands. This is our world. We are visual. When you buy something, many times you buy based on the image, on the symbol. I have a quote here from a kind of guru of marketing today, and he said that a brand is the set of expectations, memories, stories, and relationships. A symbol, a brand, is more than just a drawing. The symbols convey a message. The symbols provoke feelings. They create desires. They point to something beyond themselves. When you see a symbol, a brand, you think about things. You have feelings. I'll do a very quick exercise here for you to understand that. I'll show you some symbols, some brands. And then I challenge you to think about the feelings that you have when you see those pictures. The first one is this one here. You can put there. This is a symbol, right? When you see that, what do you feel? What do you think? More than that, think about what your children think or feel when they see that symbol. Imagine you are traveling in this Alberta countryside, in the middle of nowhere. It's lunchtime. You are there, and your children start complaining. Hey, I'm hungry. And then, there far you see a big symbol, this symbol. And then your children, they celebrate, right? And you have this kind of relief. I'm safe, right? So, this is what this symbol provokes. Like this other symbol we have here. Let's see this. For the kids, this represents maybe dreams or lots of things. This is a symbol, a very powerful symbol in our days. Whether you agree or not, this symbol has power in our days. Another symbol we have here, if you are a guy that likes cars, when you see this symbol, you have feelings, right? You imagine things about that. Maybe you have a disappointment, or maybe you have a dream. But the fact is that the symbol, you see no words there, but it speaks. There are another symbol, very known in our Calgary city, right? When you see that, what are your feelings? Maybe frustration, disappointment, dreaming. It's a symbol, right? And then I'll show you one more. And this symbol is heavy. When you see this symbol, I'm sure that you are not indifferent. Do you have the other one here? Okay. You agree with me, this is a heavy symbol, right? You have some feelings, very, I would say, negative feelings when you see a symbol like that. So I'm trying to to show you now that symbols, they have a message. They provoke feelings. And then we have our symbol, the cross. The cross is our symbol. And the cross is so important that we cannot understand Jesus properly if we remove this symbol. There is this quote from this guy saying, Christ is to us just what his cross is. Christ, I repeat, is to us just what his cross is. You do not understand Christ till you understand his cross. The cross reveals Jesus. More than any other symbol, the cross points to Jesus' mission, Jesus' purpose in this earth. The cross is so powerful that it shaped our society. You know that the old cathedrals, they have a cruciform life. I'm not sure if you already entered a cathedral, but when you look up, you see a cross. Because in the Middle Age, they thought that not only our message will be on the cross, but also our architecture and our houses and everything should point to Christ. There are some traditions. For example, I know that the Anglicans, they have this habit when they call a baby for baptism. They do this. They do the sign of the cross in the front of the baby. And they say, I sign you with the cross and mark you as Christ's own forever. A few months ago, I was visiting Camille Morley here. And Camille just was back from Egypt. Camille is from Egypt. This is why I called him Pharaoh. And then he gave me this. What a beautiful piece, right? He gave me this cross from the Coptic church. And he told me that the priests, not only in the Coptic church, but also in the Orthodox church, they carry this cross everywhere, every time. And they hold the cross everywhere. And they hold the cross. And Camille asked one of them to say, hey, why do you hold the cross every time? And the priest said, I hold the cross everywhere and every time to be remembered, reminded who I represent. I am here representing Christ and the cross. And this is beautiful. I think that we have many symbols in the history of the church. Most of them point to the cross. But more important than having a cruciform church is having a cruciform life. More important than making the sign of the cross is a life shaped by the cross. It's pointless to have a building with the shape of a cross or to having a cross here in our pulpit if the people that meet in that building, they don't have the cross shaped in their lives. So the point of this series is not only talking about the cross itself, but My question here is, how has the cross shaped our lives, guided our decisions, forged our character, and impacted our relationships? What's the mark of the cross in our lives, in our way of life? Because if we say that we follow Jesus and we have the message of the cross, the gospel, then how does this affect our lives? You remember that in 2015, ISIS beheaded 21 Coptic Christians in Libya. And they released a video, and this video showing the killing of these 21 Christians. This video had a title, and the title was "A Message Signed with Blood to the Nation of the Cross." And I think about that. Are we the nation of the cross? Are we? Because we have crosses everywhere, right? I would ask this here, but I will save you for now. But it's there's a high chance that some of you have a tattoo with the cross. We have tattoos with the cross. Maybe you have a necklace with the shape of the cross. Maybe you do the sign of the cross frequently. We have the cross in our pulpit, in our building. But the point, like I said, is, are we the nation of the cross? Are we shaped by the cross in our relationships, in our workplace, in our family? When people relate to us, they see the cross? This is the question. And then we'll talk about some characteristics of the cross, of a cruciform life. The first one is self-denial. This is a very basic characteristic of the cross. Self-denial. And the verse that we have for this today is Luke chapter 9, verse 23. This is our verse today. So I invite you to read this with me right now. Luke chapter 9, verse 23. Let's read together. And he said to all, "If anyone would come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross daily and follow me." Think about this verse. When we read the Gospels, it's not difficult to understand that Jesus has his ministry divided in two phases. The first phase is more focused on the crowds, on miracles, exorcisms, signs. The second phase is more focused on his disciples, on teaching. The second phase is more private than the first phase. And this verse, this moment marks the transition between the two phases. It's important to understand what Jesus is saying here. In this verse, the structure is very simple. You see, if anyone would come after me, and then he'll say, follow me. But between the desire for discipleship, if anyone wants to follow me, and the decision for discipleship, follow me, there is a condition for discipleship. And this condition is marked with these words: let him deny himself and take up his cross daily. Between the desire and the decision, we have the condition, we have the cost. And sometimes we talk only about the desire for discipleship and the decision, but we don't talk too much about the condition, about the cost of discipleship. And this is what Jesus is saying here. My message today is very simple. I'd like to answer two questions. The first one is, what does it mean to deny yourself and take up the cross? And the second question is about the reasoning for that, the reasons for that. So let's go to the first part. Let's understand what Jesus is saying here. What does it mean to deny yourself and take up your cross? What's the point here? It's important to understand, first of all, that self-denial is not just denying or ignoring or killing our desires. Christianity is not Buddhism. Buddhism talks about that. He talks about the desires as the root of every suffering. No, we are not Buddhists. So Jesus is not just saying that you cannot have desires. You should deny any kind of human desires you have, or killing, or Jesus is not talking here about self-punishment. When you go to the New Testament, you understand that denial in the New Testament is the intentional disassociation from a relationship with a particular person. And one good example of that is Simon Peter. Do you remember Simon Peter on the night that Jesus was betrayed? There was a girl, and Peter was there like running around, seeing what was happening with Jesus' trial. And then the girl came to Peter and said, "Hey, I saw you with him. I saw you with Jesus. You are one of them. You are with them, with him." And Peter denied. We have the same word here. Peter denied Jesus, saying, "Hey, I don't know him. I have nothing to do with this man." Peter intentionally disassociated himself from any relationship with Jesus. So we can say that self-denial is the intentional, personal, and daily decision not to put and keep the self as the ultimate reality of, or the center of the existence. Self-denial is renouncing the right to have all rights. We can say that the opposite of self-denial is selfishness. You are selfish, so you cannot self-deny. Deny yourself, sorry. When we don't deny ourselves, we put ourselves in the center of the universe. And everything around us will gravitate around us. Everything needs to change, but us. You understand what self-denial? We see self-denial in Jesus' life. Jesus is the supreme example of self-denial. I will read just two verses. One of them, Mauricio brought to us in the beginning of the service, Philippians chapter 2, verse 6 to 8. Paul says, "Though he was in the form of God, did not count equality with God a thing to be grasped, but emptied himself by taking the form of a servant, being born in the likeness of men, and being found in human form, he humbled himself by becoming obedient to the point of death, even death on a cross. You see, he emptied himself. He humbled himself. We could say he denied himself. Although he was really the center of everything, he denied to accomplish his mission. How this was done, we see Jesus praying in the garden, Gethsemane. Jesus says, Father, if you are willing, remove this cup from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done. This is self-denial. When you pray like Jesus, not my will, but yours be done. Because I already said here that sin can be defined by the word sin. S-I-N. Sin is when I is in the center of everything. So you are, or you put yourself in the center of the universe. And Jesus is saying, if you want to follow me, you need to deny yourself. This is self-denial. And then he says, and take up your cross. Let's understand the cross. Cross-bearing is not a difficult relationship. Cross-bearing is not a long-term sickness, like many people understand. Cross-bearing is not a constant temptation. Let me be honest with you now. Your wife is not your cross. Okay? Your husband is not your cross. Your mother-in-law is not your cross. You understand that, Barreto? Okay? Although you think that. Yeah. Your boss is not your cross. No, Jesus is not talking about that here. Sometimes we say, oh, I have this very difficult situation. This is the cross I need to bear, right? Everyone has a cross to bear. No. Let's understand what Jesus is saying here. Carrying the cross was the ultimate symbol of submission and surrender. The cross itself was something terrible. You cannot imagine a crucifixion. The horror of that. But more than that, if you are condemned to go to the cross, you need to carry the cross to the place where you will be crucified. This is we can say, the extreme of humiliation and submission. When you carry the cross, you are showing to the world, I am defeated. The cross won. There is no salvation for me. The cross won. This is what the cross, or carrying the cross, means to Jesus. So when you put together, deny yourself with take up your cross, we can come to the point of what Jesus is saying here. The implication of the cross in our lives. The point is, anyone who wants to follow Jesus must surrender entirely to his authority and give up control over their lives. This means that you cannot follow Jesus on your own terms and conditions. No. We cannot follow Jesus and keep control. We cannot follow Jesus and keep saying, do not touch here, Jesus. This is my private life. Do not ask me this and that. Do not expect big changes in my life, Jesus. I'll follow you. Okay, I'll go to the church. I'll give an offering. I'll serve in a ministry. But more than that, Jesus, please. So, this is not Christianity. Christianity is all in. The point is, anyone who wants to follow Jesus must surrender entirely to his authority and give up control over their lives. This is our age today. Think about that. We are in this age of expressive individualism. This shirt represents what we are today. Be yourself, accept yourself, value yourself, forgive yourself, bless yourself, express yourself, trust yourself, love yourself, empower yourself. Yourself. But when you meet Jesus, you need to renounce this philosophy. You are not the center of the universe. When you accept Jesus, you need to surrender all. Right? We sing this, I surrender all. What does it mean? If we are not denying ourselves and taking up our crosses, so we cannot say, hey, I follow you, Jesus. Jesus is saying, you cannot follow me if you don't deny yourself and take up your cross. But I understand this is very countercultural. I understand that. Maybe you are shocked. I am shocked with that. And it's important to have a good reason to do that. And Jesus gives you not only one reason, but 3 good reasons. So what's the reasoning behind denying yourself and taking up your cross? What's the reasoning? Why should we deny ourselves and take up our cross to follow Jesus? So consider that Jesus is giving you 3 very good reasons to do that. Number 1, because this is Jesus' way. This is the way of Jesus. Jesus is not acting here like a tyrant, a dictator. Jesus is not imposing voluntary submission on his followers. He's saying, no, I am the king of the universe. Be on your knees. No, it's not a Marvel movie, okay? Jesus is not imposing on others anything that he himself was not willing to do. When you see the context, you have the understanding of that. Because before verse 23, Jesus, we see on verse 22, the Son of Man must suffer many things and be rejected and be killed. I told you that this text marks a transition. You see that in the end of this chapter, we will see Jesus going to Jerusalem. And Jesus is saying, hey guys, let me say something to you. You are watching many miracles, signs, but let me be honest with you. I'm going to Jerusalem. There is a cross waiting for me. My resolution is to go there. My mission is to go to the cross. If you want to go with me, if you want to follow me, so you need to understand that. You don't need to follow me. You are not obligated to follow me. But if you want to follow me, you need to understand where I am going to. I am going to the cross. So if you want to go with me, you need to go to the cross with me. Are you understanding what I'm saying here? Jesus is not imposing the cross as a tyrant, No, he's saying, this is my way. I am going. You don't need to follow me, but if you do, be aware of that. This is Jesus' way. We are just following him. Number two, second reason, we see in the context of the text, the cost of non-discipleship is higher than the cost of discipleship. Usually we see that being a Christian is very hard. So in a world of this expressive individualism where everyone is trying to affirm themselves, how can I live in that way? And you only consider the cost of discipleship. But Jesus is going beyond that and saying, hey, you should consider the cost of non-discipleship. See what he says in the following verse, 24. For whoever would save his life will lose it. But whoever loses his life for my sake will save it. For what does it profit a man if he gains the whole world and loses or forfeits himself? For whoever is ashamed of me and of my words, of him will the Son of Man be ashamed when he comes in his glory, in the glory of the Father and of the holy angels. See what Jesus is saying here. Say, you think that I'm talking about death here. But let me say something, Jesus is saying. At the end, you cannot gain your life. You cannot control the outcomes of your life. You are vulnerable in this world. You lose your life anyway. You can have victories and gains here and there. You can have a good life here and there. But at the end, you lose your life. You are not immortal. You face death at some point. If there is assurance for us in here, is that one day everyone in this place will be in a coffin. Everyone. And Jesus is saying, hey, what I am proposing is costly. Yes, it is. But it is less costly for you to consider that. And more than that, think about myself. If today you are denying me, there will be one day when you will be denied by me. The question that Jesus is trying to put here is, who is our primary allegiance to? Jesus or ourselves? This is why Jim Elliot, the famous missionary that was killed by indigenous people in Ecuador, he has this very famous quote, "He is no fool who gives what he cannot keep to gain that which he cannot lose." So, what are you trying to keep? Jesus is putting the cost in a different way. So, the great question is not how much it cost. The great question Jesus is saying here is how much is worthy. What's the value of following Jesus? Because you are able to pay any price for the things that you value the most. So stop considering the cost of discipleship and start considering the cost of non-discipleship. And then this will be easier for you to accept the invitation that Jesus is doing here. So the cost of non-discipleship is higher than the cost of discipleship. And then the third reason, and then we'll finish here. This third reason is based on the overall teaching in the New Testament about the cross. If we are in Christ, it means that He bought us and we don't belong to ourselves anymore. There is a pattern in the New Testament saying that we are not our own because we were bought with a price. When Jesus died on the cross, He was buying us to Himself. So you don't belong to yourself. I know that this is very difficult to hear, to listen to, right? But the fact is that based on the New Testament, if you surrendered your life to Jesus Christ, this means that you surrendered. You were not the champion. You are not the owner of your life anymore. You cannot say to the owner of a company, oh, you should do this and that. Don't do this and don't do that. No. He is the owner. So there are three very good reasons to deny yourself and take up your cross. This is Jesus' way. The cost of non-discipleship is higher than the cost of discipleship, and we don't belong to ourselves anymore. Consider that. And to finish, I'd like to give you the implication of that. What are the implications? What are the implications of that in our lives? I told in the beginning the title of this series, The Way of the Cross. Understanding and embracing the cruciform life. And I was reading an article this week from Traveling Walks, and I was shocked. And I was very impacted with the title of this article. Lord, help me see the ways to die today. Wow. This is a prayer, right? And he says here something that really strikes me. A few months ago, I began asking the Lord every morning to give me chances that day to die to myself, and for the Spirit to help me recognize those opportunities. He was never failed to answer this prayer, not once. Every time I've asked Him to show me opportunities to die to myself, He's come through. Annoyingly so. On occasion, I've thought it might be best to stop praying this prayer as I grew tired of the spiritual discomfort. Can you identify yourself with this prayer? What I'm saying to you is that if you are reading the text, there is a response. You can go to your home today and say, okay, beautiful message. Okay, interesting to understand what following Jesus means. But okay, let's go with our lives. But you can consider that. If the Holy Spirit touches in your heart, you can consider that. And you can start praying this every day. Lord, help me see the ways to die today. In your family, how can you die? How can you take up your cross in your daily relationships at family, at home, How can you follow this pattern with your wife, your kids, your husband? How can you follow this pattern when you go for work, dealing with your partners, dealing with people that work with you, dealing with your neighbors? Traveling Walk says here that sometimes it's not the great decisions that will shape our lives. It is the small decisions that we do every day. We make every day, sorry. So, I encourage you. I won't give you all the answers. I will just encourage you to consider the title of this prayer. Lord, help me see the ways to die today. How can I deny myself today and take up my cross to follow Jesus in his example?